my FD nickname is Sprinkles. And as I mentioned, the first program I was on was in Estes Park, and it was rock climbing, which is what led me to teaching yoga for first ascents. And I'm a yoga teacher as well as a yoga therapist. And so what that means is I take the tools of yoga to help us dive a little deeper, sometimes into trauma and grief and working through cancer or illnesses like MS. And just really it's about connection. And that was Crash had mentioned that as well. So this connection that we feel with each other as a community is a big part of yoga, as well as connecting with yourself. And so today we are going to be talking a lot about breathing in yoga. The first class, if you haven't done it yet, there is another video that was from our live class in June. So I invite you to do that as well. That was a lot about our physical body presence. And today we're going to be, learning a little bit more how we breathe in yoga, which is honestly, in my mind, the most important part. We can stretch, we can move, but if we're not paying attention to how we breathe, yoga doesn't feel quite the same. And we don't have that same effect of it balancing the nervous system. And so breath work really helps to, as I mentioned, regulate the nervous system, and it will bring us into presence and focus. It can help us with balance, control, and strength, as well as relaxation and flexibility, not just in our body, but in our mind as well. So I'm going to take us into some breathing practices to start, and that's going to help us to understand what I'm talking about, and then we'll start to move with the breath. So if you could just go ahead and make your way to your mat, that would be great. If you happen to have a belt, or I have this yoga strap, but it's absolutely not necessary to have a yoga strap. You could even have some sort of like scarf that you tie around. You're not going to need it quite yet, but just have it close. And you can sit on the floor if it's comfortable for you to sit cross-legged. If it's not comfortable to sit cross-legged this first part, I'd recommend actually sitting just in a chair, because you can keep your feet on the floor and your spine straight. So the most important part is that the spine is straight and you feel grounded and comfortable. And in fact, you can even do it laying down. So I'll give you a second just to get settled. And as you are doing so, a fun fact is that we take over 24,000 breaths a day, and most of them are just subconsciously happening. Some of you may tune into your breath sometimes, and you may notice, oh, yeah, I'm breathing in this way or that way, or it feels choppy, or my breath feels kind of stuck. And so that's more of that conscious breathing. So there's a lot of room for us to start to actually regulate our breath. And the cool thing about doing that is our breath tells us how we're feeling, and it's the quickest way to bring us back into balance. So let's go ahead and just notice how you're feeling in this present moment, how you're showing up today. And without any judgment, that's a big part of mindfulness. It's just like realizing, hey, this is how I feel, and that's okay. Meeting myself where I'm at. And then if it's comfortable for you to close down your eyes, then that will help you draw a little more inward so you can focus on the sensations of your breath. If it's not, just fix your gaze on something that's not moving, like something on the floor in front of you or the wall. And notice how the breath is running through your body. Starting with, are you breathing naturally through your nose or through your mouth? In yoga, we are always trying to breathe in and out through the nose, so I'll cue a little bit more about that later. And then notice the temperature of your breath. You may notice that it differs whether you're breathing in or breathing out. Usually as we breathe in, the breath feels a little cooler, and as we breathe out, it's a little warmer. And then notice the quality of your breath. Does it feel nice and fluid, or does it feel a little choppy? Oftentimes, if our heart is beating quickly, or if there's a little bit of anxiety that we feel, then we might feel a little choppiness in the breath. And then notice if the breath feels a little bit shallow, or if it feels like you're breathing deeply. So as I mentioned, the breath is a direct indicator of your current state of being, and it's also the quickest way to start to bring ourselves into our desired state of being. So if you notice the breath is a little choppy or shallow, for example, we can actually learn to make it more abundant, deeper, longer breaths. And so now we're going to kind of work on that. This is where we'll start to use the strap in just a moment, so have it close. And I would love to just notice if you are feeling like you're breathing naturally more into the front of your body, or do you notice that you are able to breathe into the back as well? Our lungs, actually, there's a lot of space on the back side. So learning to breathe into the backs of our lungs can really deepen the breath. We'll work on that in just a moment. And then also notice if the breath is naturally moving more into your belly, or maybe you feel it in the middle, or maybe you feel it in your chest. Now let's play with that a little. So take your hands to your belly, and you can just kind of cradle it and start to breathe in and see if you can let the breath expand into your hands like a balloon. And as you exhale, you'll feel the breath retract. Do that a few times. Breathing in, the breath expands into your hands. Breathing out, let it go. So it's going to feel like this balloon is just inflating and deflating. You may start to notice that there's a difference in how you feel already. Because if you're someone who feels a lot of breath stuck in your chest and you're able to move it down to your belly, it relieves a lot of stress and feelings of anxiety. It'll start to smooth out the breath. We'll do one more of those. And this is where you'll start to use the strap if you have one. And you have a belt that has like an actual thing to put it through, then you'll do that. Otherwise, you'll just tie it on. You can tie it around your rib cage. So I'm kind of going at my upper rib cage. Straps kind of like right below shoulder blades. And if you don't have a strap, there's other ways to do this, so no worries. If you do, go ahead and just kind of put it on. You can sit with your back against the wall, because really what we're trying to do is create a little pressure so that you feel where your breath is moving. All right, so you need a little concentration. And so if you don't want to sit against the wall, you can also just hold your hands if this is comfortable, so that you're like cradling. I have like my pointers in the front and the thumbs in the back, so that you can feel the backs of your rib cage. So getting into whatever position works for you. We're now going to try to move the breath up into this area. And so as you breathe in, You're going to feel the breath expand forward into the strap and then back. Good, and then exhale, letting it go. And it might take some effort. You may notice that you don't naturally breathe into the back of your rib cage. So again, breathing forward and back, and let it go. Now see if you can integrate going even out to the side. So inhale forward, back, and out. Good, and then exhale. Go. Do that again. Forward, back, and out on the inhale. And exhale, letting go. Take a few more breaths like this. And what you'll notice is we're starting to engage kind of that diaphragm as well. And this is where we start to regulate our nervous system, is when we're able to engage more of that part of our body. Oftentimes, more of this deep diaphragmatic breathing can help relieve stress and tension, as well as chronic pain, because we're sort of letting go as we breathe. We'll do one more of these. I invite you just to keep the strap on if you have one. And we're going to move up to the chest. So see now if you can just place your one hand over your chest, the other on top, and breathe in, feeling the breath expand into your hands, and then exhale, letting go. You may notice that you're still feeling your rib cage engage here too. Just filling the lungs up with air and releasing. And you may have noticed that the belly may be not engaged as well anymore. And so now we're going to connect the three parts. This is called complete breathing, when we are able to let the breath move from belly, ribs to chest. So we'll place one hand on the belly and the other hand on the heart. You're going to breathe in, feel the breath expand into your lower hand, rise up through the ribs and into the chest. And as you exhale, let it go, chest, ribs to belly. Good. Do that a few more times. Inhaling, belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs to belly. So you're actually matching your inhales and exhales here. Inhaling for 3 and exhaling for 3. Do just 2 more of this breath and start to notice how you feel now. You may notice a little more balance in your body, more regulation in your nervous system. You may notice that you have a little more energy, focus, and clarity. All right, so we'll take the strap off. And the last step of our breathing exercise is to talk about yoga breathing and what we're going to be doing in our postures. So there's this funny name called Ujjayi breathing, and it also sounds a little like an ocean wave when you're breathing, or maybe like Darth Vader. And we breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, but feel constriction down the back of the throat. It's almost like you're fogging a mirror with your breath, but your mouth is closed. So we're going to just try it together with inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. So you feel that activation first. Let's do that. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, sigh it out. You feel that down in your throat, right? Do that again. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And this time, as you exhale, you're going to start to close your mouth down. So we'll inhale through the nose, exhale, closing the mouth. And then one more time, inhaling, and then just see if you can do it one time with it in through the nose, out through the nose, but still feeling that constriction. Like anything, it takes some practice. So we'll do that as we're moving through poses. But when you're breathing like this, you'll start to notice that the poses feel different. And so let's go ahead, and if you are seated, you can just take one leg out in front of you. I'm going to straighten my right leg, bend my left knee. And if you were laying down, go ahead and come to a seat and come into this posture. If you're sitting in a chair, then it would look a little bit more like this. All right. And we're going to start to work a little on flexibility. So we'll sweep the arms up, inhaling through the nose. And then as you exhale, reach forward and down. Just come to wherever is comfortable. So if you have any back pain, the forward fold, you want to keep the back nice and straight. And then reach forward from there rather than rounding. And allowing yourself to feel the stretch in your hamstring. Hamstrings are really tight. You could even put something underneath your leg. We're going to find that ujjayi breathing. So breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. You may even pulse down a little bit. And what you'll find is after a few breaths, you might feel really tense at first. Your hamstrings may feel pretty tight, but you may start to release a little bit because the breath helps us get a little deeper into that pose. We'll take one more breath here. Good, and then we'll inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. And as you exhale, we'll take just a gentle twist over to the left, gazing over the shoulder. And this can just be a subtle twist, or you could twist a little deeper, gazing towards the back wall, lengthening the spine on the inhale. And as you exhale, you twist. Still finding that deep breathing. And what I'll say is that the breath gets a little constricted in a twist. So very normal for it to feel a little harder. And then we'll drop down that right arm, sweep the left arm up overhead, reaching towards the side wall. So we're going to take a nice side body stretch. And again, we're going to inhale, reach, and exhale, release. A little lower down. And you'll pulse with your breath, inhaling and exhaling. And it's more important here to roll the lower ribs up towards the ceiling than it is to try to reach for the toes. We're really trying to stretch those intercostal muscles. So you can keep your arm like this straight, or you can even try to tuck your hand behind your head, which will be a little more of a shoulder opener. And if you have been navigating breast cancer and have had some surgeries here, you could even have your hand down low and just be stretching the side body. It might be a little tight right now, and that's okay. But just going to whatever's comfortable. Then we'll start to rise back up, arms reach overhead. We're going to move to the other side. So take the left leg out, right leg in. Square off towards that left leg. Inhale, sweep the arms up, reaching tall. Press down through the sit bones. And then exhale, reaching forward and down. And again, finding length in the spine. A little stretch in the hamstrings. Inhaling You might pulse up a little and exhaling, releasing down. Finding that deep breath, sounding like a wave. We'll take 2 more. And then we'll start to rise back up. Arms come up overhead. A gentle twist over to the side. And again, you can be very loose in the twist, or you can lengthen the spine and then gaze towards the back wall, which is going to make it a little more intense. I wouldn't do that if you're experiencing some back pain though. Smoothing out the breath. And then as you look towards the side wall, keep that alignment and then drop your left arm. You can place it on top of your leg or even a block or something underneath it, or a pillow, sweeping right arm up overhead. Once again, lower ribs rotate upward. You can find a gentle release in the neck if you would like, kind of rocking it forward and back. Take 2 more breaths here. You try putting the hand behind the head on the other side. You could do that again. And then we'll rise back up and bring our legs wide. So a little bit could be here, could be wherever's comfortable for you. And then feel the sit bones rooting down. I like to bring my arms up to the sky so that I'm reaching tall and pressing down into the sit bones. And then again, forward and down, finding length in the spine. And then you can come as low as you like. So you could even have, I have yoga blocks at home, but if you have something like this, you could place your head on them, stacking them at any height. You could have some sort of pillow that you lay on. Just a few mindful breaths here. Again, that gentle pulsing on the inhale and exhale, lowering a little. We're breathing for flexibility. And you may notice that using that Ujjayi breath, or that where you hear it in the back of your throat, it helps to go a little deeper, more than if you're just breathing kind of shallow. All right, so now we've taken a few forward folds, and we're going to open up by bringing our hands behind us, feet flat on the floor, and coming into a reverse tabletop. So pressing into the hands, pressing into the feet. I'm going to inhale, lift the hips up, and keeping the neck neutral, squeezing shoulder blades together. If that's not comfortable for you, you can just take the hands maybe behind, opening up the chest. Really what we're doing is opening the chest right now. And that could even look like just fingertips behind you, squeezing shoulder blades together, gaze lifted. And then you'll exhale, coming back down. And so from that reverse table, we're going to come into a regular tabletop, which is hands and knees, rolling this direction, and stack your shoulders over wrists and hips over knees. Toes can be tucked or feet flat, whatever's comfortable for you. We're going to come into some cat-cows. So as you inhale, we'll dip the belly and gaze comes forward. So you're arching your back. As you exhale, press down into the mat, round the spine, tucking your chin to chest. Good, do that a few more times. Inhaling, dropping the belly, and exhaling, rounding the back. And so it's linear movements. You can stay doing this a few more times, or I invite you to create a more fluid movement. So as you inhale, you dip the belly, and I'm going to tuck my toes. It's a little easier here. I'm going to bring my hips back to my heels, and then exhale, rounding forward. So inhaling, I'm coming to that cow pose as my hips come back. Then exhaling, rounding up through cat. I always feel like when I move more fluidly on the yoga mat, that I tend to go with the flow a little more in life too. It transfers pretty well. These can be done as well if you're in a chair. You can be sitting and inhaling and exhaling. So cat-cows can certainly be done sitting in a chair. All right, and then from here, we're going to come back to stacking our wrists over our shoulders over our wrists, and just walk the fingertips forward and keeping your hips elevated. Bring your head down in between the shoulders, and it can just hover. If it's comfortable, you can try to bring it down to the mat, but it's really not necessary. We're going to inhale, sort of round the spine like cat. Exhale, bring the head down as far as is comfortable, but where you feel a good stretch. You should feel almost like a rinsing in your shoulders. Most of us do hold some tension in the shoulders, so this is always a good one to do. I think this pose actually you could do in isolation. You don't even have to do a whole yoga class. You could just do it working on your computer a lot. Great one to come into. All right, nice work. There's going to be an option to take a downward facing dog. If you get dizzy, this is an inversion where your head goes below your heart. So I'm not sure that it's necessary. You can just keep doing the puppy pose, or you can come to the wall and place your hands on the wall and your head down between your arms and you get the same activation. If you are comfortable, then you'll come from your hands and knees. You'll press down into your hands and your toes and start to lift the sit bones up. And allow the sit bones to sway towards the sky. And notice that my knees are bent here, and that's because hamstrings are often tight at first. I want to keep the same activation in my shoulders that I did during puppy pose, really pressing down into each of my fingers. And then I can start to take an inhale with my knees bent, exhale, press the left heel down, straighten the leg. Inhale, bend the knees, exhale, straighten the right leg. So moving with your breath here, inhaling, bend, and exhaling, left heel down. Inhale, bend, exhale, right. Inhale, bend. Now try to take both heels to the mat. And if you notice that when you press down, you start to round, then that might mean that it's okay to keep the knees bent. And when you're in your downward dog, it sometimes feels good to inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, sighing it out. And we'll drop down into the child's pose. So go ahead and check in with yourself. Sometimes coming into downward dog, we start to elevate the heart rate. We start to feel a little bit like our breath gets choppy again. And so we're going to take it down to the mat into a child's pose. I'm going to put a block underneath my head. Arms are extended out in front. You could also have your arms by your side. If child's pose is not comfortable for you, you could sit maybe in hero's pose with your hips between your heels. Or if you're in a chair, close down your eyes. This pose is meant to help you feel grounded and to help you recalibrate your breath. So we'll start to slow it down. Releasing any tension that you feel in your jaw. Releasing tension in your body. Also noticing where you feel more open. Now we'll start to come back to hands and knees, and there's going to be an option to take a plank pose. I'm going to give a few versions of this. So we can take a full plank, which is a little intense, and so if you're coming out of treatment or if you have anything going on where this is not an option, then no need to do it. You can take a forearm plank, a kneeling plank, or one at the wall. So I'll show all the versions. This is more for our strength. So really firing up the Ujjayi breathing. We're gonna lift the knees, press back into the heels if you're going for the full plank. Pressing into the hands, drawing the core up and in. And do that nice, strong breaths, or you drop down to your knees, for example. See, this is my plank where you're holding the core is engaged. There's an option for a forearm plank, which you come to your forearms, press back into your heels, which this can actually sometimes feel even harder than a regular plank, actually. Again, drawing up and in. You can drop to your knees at any time. And then the wall option is kind of similar to downward dog, but you're gonna kind of bend the elbows so that you have a little weight here. You're strengthening the arms, pressing, and feeling that strength. Firing up the breath here. Dropping down to the knees if you haven't already. Some of you may have had a really long plank, and some of you might have dropped to your knees quickly. And any of it is great. From here, we're gonna kind of come down onto the belly, forearms down, and start to pull your heart through. Shoulder blades slide down your back. And we'll stay in Sphinx pose for just a moment, opening up the chest, feel an activation in the lower back. Nice, smooth breathing. You may release your neck and want to rock it side to side. And this pose can also be done at the wall. Forearms against the wall. Opening up the chest. All right. And then from here, it's an option to stay here, an option to come down onto, you want to take a break and just windshield wiper your legs. Or if some of you would like to join me for Cobra, slide your hands down, kind of right around your chest, hug the elbows in, and really press down into the tops of your feet. And inhale, lift the chest up, squeezing shoulder blades together, squeezing elbows in. And you're not trying to lift high, that's not necessary. Subtle lifting, you want to feel activation in the lower back. Exhale, roll down. Inhale, lifting up, squeezing elbows in and back down. And we'll do one more, inhaling through the nose. Exhale to release. Good job. Coming back up through hands and knees. You can take a child's pose at any time or a little break. We're going to go ahead and take our right leg forward, so we're in a low lunge. And bring your hands up to your hips. From here, make sure you're nice and grounded, pressing down into your front foot. And then inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. And so you can be in a 90-degree lunge here, nice and stable, hugging the belly in, or you may decide to bring that foot forward a little, and then you'll notice I'm opening up my hip flexor more. So pick which lunge works for you. We'll inhale, reach to the sky, exhale, cactus the arms, opening the heart. Do that 2 more times, inhaling high, exhaling to pull down. Good, one more time. We'll bring our hands to our hips. And option 2, just, if you're in this kneeling lunge, bring your foot back, coming into warrior two like this. Or you would bring your hands down, lift the back leg, spin your back foot down flat, and then you rise up. And so you're going to be actually sort of facing your side wall at this point, pressing down into the back foot, using that like a brake or leverage so that you can push your front knee over your ankle. Then you allow your arms to float up, and we're going to again breathe for strength here. Finding a focal point over your front fingers, breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. Nice smooth breath. Notice where your attention goes. Sometimes we start to think about the legs burning or the arms, but this is a warrior pose, so we're really trying to cultivate that strength, knowing that whatever you're feeling on your mat is impermanent, it will pass, and whatever you are able to withstand helps you to then feel a little more empowered afterwards. You got this. We'll just take 3 more breaths, holding it strong. Good job. All right. From here, we're going to go ahead and just turn to the side, take a forward fold. And you're going to feel a nice hamstring stretch, releasing the head and neck. You can also keep your hands at your hips if it's hard to put your head down too low. You could take some side lunges here. And I forgot to show you, but if you don't want to be standing, you can actually do warrior two in a chair, which I'll show on this other side. So from here, we're going to actually start to just turn towards the back of the mat, drop the back knee, and start to rise up. Arms come overhead, reaching tall. Inhaling, lifting through the fingers. And then we'll exhale, cactus arms. And do that 2 more times. You can probably hear me breathing. Notice my breath is audible. And then inhaling up. Deciding which warrior two you want to come to. Hands will come to hips and you just kind of spin around. Or fingertips down, back heel spins flat, rising up, and coming into the standing version. So finding your strength, and if you're in a chair, then you kind of bring one leg out to the side and turn the other leg open. So definitely possible. Finding your breath, breathing for strength. That means that your breath is going to be the loudest right now. Smooth breath in and out. I'm going to take about 5 more breaths here. Just letting you know how long. And notice that when you bring your attention back to your breath, it becomes an anchor. So then you're not thinking of thoughts in your mind. You're able to withstand it a little bit more. But always straighten your leg and then come back into the bend. Nice work. And then from here, we'll just turn back to the side. Coming down into a forward fold. And start to walk back towards the front of your mat. And we'll just step to the top now. Starting to round very slowly, coming to a standing position. And I'm going to turn and face you. You can just stay at the top of your mat. From here, let's take our feet about hip-width distance apart. And we're going to inhale, sweep the arms up overhead, and grab onto your left wrist. Take an inhale, reach up, and then exhale, side bend over to the right. Inhale back through center, switch the grip to the other wrist, and then exhale over to the left. You're really pressing into both feet equally here. Good job. Back up through center, and we're going to come into chair pose. So just start to sit back. I keep my legs wide for this. more like hip width distance. And the arms will come up in front of us as we sit back. So you have this counterbalance, reaching forward as you sit back. You might hug the belly up and in, really pressing through your feet. Maybe tucking the pelvis just a little bit, scooping it under. And this is, again, strong breath. One more breath here. As you inhale, straighten up, reach tall, and then bring your arms down. We're gonna come into a tree pose. So we were doing kind of the same thing when we first started, and we bent one leg and the other was straight. So we're gonna start with our standing leg being our right leg, and then we're gonna bend the left. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bend this knee and then start to rotate open. So my knee is gonna kind of swing out to the side. And you have the option here to just keep your foot on the ground or start to slide it up your leg. Maybe it goes to your calf. Maybe it starts to go up all the way above your knee, but not on the knee. We don't want it on the joint. So you pick which works for you. You could also be back against a wall for support. You could also be doing this in a chair. The one leg would be straight, and you'd be sort of hooking it onto the straight leg. From here, arms come overhead, reaching tall, finding your balance. So when we breathe for balance, we find the focal point, which is something that's not moving in front of you, usually on the wall. And you just breathe as you look at it, nice and smooth. Good. You can try to test your balance, again, keeping your breath steady, keeping your gaze on that point, but trying to move your body in such a way that it may be a little bit harder, but you're focusing on roots are planted, so they're going down into the ground deep as you're reaching tall. Take one more breath here, and then exhale, bring your foot down, sort of sway the hips, shake it out. We'll go to the other side. Nice work, everyone. So this time left foot is going to really plant down. Focus like the roots are growing deep into the earth. Bend the right knee, swing open, start to slide up the leg. Find your comfort zone. Find that focal point and start to steady your breath. From that point, you can start to bring the arms up overhead and really feel into the pose. Again, focused on breath, focused on that one spot. And then you could even start to imagine that if there's something that you want to let go of, that you're letting it sort of float on down, like the leaves are coming off the trees. Whatever those worries are, just letting them go. And then we'll sort of shake it out. And then coming into a counter pose, we were opening up the hip there. There's going to be an option to just come either into a seated figure 4 down on the ground where you hook your right leg over the left knee. You're going to be getting into the back part of your hip now. Or you're going to start to come down onto the ground and hook, and hands come around the hamstring. So figuring out which works for you, opening up the other side of the hip. We'll take 2 more breaths here. We're breathing for that flexibility again. Steady breaths. And then we'll switch our legs. So feet come to the ground. If you're sitting, same thing, and then you just switch. Focusing on steady breathing, noticing if one side feels different than the other, which is very common. And then both feet will come down to the mat. And options here to windshield wiper the legs, inhaling knees to center, exhaling as they drop to the side. Or you could stay in movement, or you could take both of your legs and drop them over to one side. And gaze goes towards the other opposite way. This is more of a twist. So this is going to be a little more intense. Might feel better for some of you to kind of just rock the knees. And again, as I mentioned earlier, when we twist, the breath gets a little restricted. So you have to sort of massage it out into the organs. We'll inhale knees through center. Exhale, you'll shift the hips a little if you're in the twist so that you can even out to go to the other side. If you are letting the knees rock, you could even just bring the knees together in constructed rest, feet go wide, and take a few breaths here. And then from your twist, just coming back around, lengthening the legs out long. Arms come out wide. We'll take our final resting pose. So the resting pose is what helps us to really absorb the practice. So we'll be laying here for just a few minutes and closing down the eyes if that's comfortable for you. I'm going to sit up so I can talk you through it, but we're going to take a few mindful breaths in this pose, inhaling from the feet up to the crown of your head, and then exhaling back down to your feet. Just imagining that the breath is running over your body, so inhaling all the way up and exhaling back down. You may even have an affirmation you'd like to say or an intention here. So, for example, you could say, inhale, I feel present. Exhale, I feel peace. Inhale, I feel gratitude. And exhale, I feel joy. Something that you would like to cultivate in your life, and you're syncing that affirmation with your breathing. What that does is it just stills the thoughts in the mind, and it allows you to stay present. And they always invite you to lay here longer. We're at the end of our practice, and so we'll just start to move the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, and breathe a little deeper, inviting more energy into the body. You can take a stretch here, reaching arms overhead, wiggling about a little bit. And if you wanted to stay laying there, that's okay too. And then if you want to join me with palms at your heart center, you can just roll onto one side, gently press yourself up to a seated position. And close our practice, bowing to one another for joining a community today and for connecting with yourself and connecting with each other. Namaste, which just means the light and the love in me honors the very same in each of you. Thank you so much.